Welcome to the Virgo channel. My name is Laura, and I'm going to do a general message for you all. Know that energy is fluid, so roles could be reversed, flip it, switch it, twist it. Always interpret the message as it best resonates for you. Also know that anything of any importance due to with the channel, you can find in the description box, such as my website link, Patreon link, my specials. I have two subscriptions going on right now, one for $7.99 a month, one for $9.99 a month. And it's all about healing the effects of trauma, healing through shadow coaching. So what this includes is inner child healing, shadow coaching, reparenting, EFT, and a bunch of other healing modalities that I won't bore you with because you'll find all of it in the description box. Just know that when we heal the effects of trauma, we can't just heal the mind, meaning the psychological and the emotional aspects of the situation that made us, see ourselves from a disempowered perspective where we detach. But we also have to recondition the body because your body is your mind's faithful servant. So integration, it's all about integration, which means taking your spiritual lesson, becoming aware of the lesson, and integrating it through doing something different so you could see a different perception. So this is why I always look at the past life traumas, what you incarnate into this earth plane with. Then I look at the inner child wounds. Then I'll look at the actual samskaras, which are the soul wounds, spiritual blocks also, we know them as. And a spiritual block is just how we get stuck in a limited perception about ourselves. It's what creates the shadow part of ourselves because we detach from that part of ourselves. This is the part of self that we wear a mask because we don't like the perception that we're seeing. So again, the samskara, which is a spiritual block, and then the behaviorism that comes from the trigger. So we'll look at the triggers that come from the blocks, and again, the actual block. And then we look at the archetype, what we're dealing with. What, again, when we have a shadow aspect of self, it's again the part of self that we detach from, and then we form a persona unconsciously, and this persona is that mask, which is an archetype. So we look at the archetype and then we look at how to balance the energies. So not just within yourself, but within your situation. Now, the reason why I like to do these readings is because, first of all, there's many different realities that play out at one time. So depending on what you do is, again, what your karma is going to be. So if you have a spiritual block where you're, again, viewing yourself through a disempowered perception, then you're going to be coming from a fear-based, point of view all the time when you're dealing with other people, and you're not going to get good life experiences. So the thing is, you may be wanting to know what blocks you and your person have and how you both trigger each other and how that plays out. I do that on this channel. But I focus mainly on you because whether you stay in this relationship that you're actually tuned in to find out about, or the job, want to know whether you're going to stay at this job or find another job, until you heal the spiritual lesson, again, spiritual block, by learning the spiritual lesson, you'll continue to repeat a karmic cycle. And that karmic cycle is, again, what keeps you stuck in this limited perception. And the problem with that is that everyone forms behaviorisms that are in alignment with those perceptions. So sabotaging behaviorisms, when we get in our own way, is a cause of a manifestation from trauma. So, like I said, whether you like the person that you're tuning in for today or in 10 years or it's somebody else, it won't matter. You'll always get the same result. Because in scripture, it actually says what we resist persists. If you continue to not learn. And so learning is just about, again, seeing a different perception. So I always like to put that out there, because through looking at the blocks, we can tell how a situation is going to play out. That's why a lot of times if you tune in to YouTube and listen to your favorite reader, you'll notice that a reading is always done. You can see the different perceptions of a reading. Like if you tune into Virgo, or if you tune into whatever the zodiac is, every day you can see how that story varies. And it varies due to, again, what you choose to do. So on Monday, let's just say you choose to be really happy to see your twin flame soulmate. Well, again, you're going to get a different outcome than if tomorrow or the day after, you act like you're angry with them, obviously, right? Because everybody has a reaction to your action and your reaction. So again, karma is not just based on what you do, but again, that reaction and how it plays out. And so we really can see the wounds when we're dealing with our soulmate, any type of soul family, because again, there's always a paradox. Those people don't think the way that we think. However, there is this unconditional love that forces us to see a different perception. And that's really what it's all about, because we wouldn't learn how to integrate our shadows unless, there was a catalyst, and the catalyst is unconditional love. Like, I'll do anything for love. And everyone pretty much says, I'll do anything for love. We may say that we wouldn't, but 99.9% of people do. That's why a lot of 99.9% of people haven't gotten hurt in love. And I want to say 100% of people get hurt within love. The only people that don't get hurt are the people that don't try. And even they will hurt because they don't try. So there's really no escaping. And because again, it's an innate desire, need, because we are unconditional love. There's a need, there's a desire, because it's what connects us to God. It's what connects us to each other, because we all have that universal energy inside of us that, like, again, is not just connects us to each other, but gives us that supernatural ability to really be able to create our life. The spirit of us. But when we have a lot of blocks, the spirit of us is dim. That song, This Little Light of Mine, I'm going to let it shine, is because you're a clear conduit for spirit to speak. You're a light. We all are born of light. What happens is we're born into situations that take us further away from this light, because we form shadows, and those shadows are just perception. So integration is about taking the wound and turning it into a gift, something that's going to empower you. That's why it always says that God displays its glory through the most broken. Well, the most broken have a lot of shadows, and they have a lot of behaviorisms, and they usually are the drudgery of the world. The people that get in their own way, the people that sabotage themselves, the people that have addictions, the people that, again, have behaviorisms that obviously collectively are we're not supposed to show. And so again, we form these masks in order to be accepted and to be loved. When in actuality, whenever we do this, we take ourselves further away from this unconditional love. So this is why these readings are so important, because right now we're in the midst of a spiritual war, and the spiritual war is of consciousness. So our shadows make us live our life through a lower consciousness. And then we want to know why do we see more crime? Why do we see more people suffering? Pain and suffering is caused from this detachment, and not just because of love, but we don't have any ammunition. The ammunition comes from creating yourself, becoming the vibration of love, unconditional love, through giving and receiving of love, knowing that that is the fact that there's a bigger purpose to life, that you have a bigger purpose to life. But if you have all these blocks, you're going to be so consumed with trying to fix, where really only God can change your mind and your heart by what it brings into your life. And now, if you don't like the word God, we can use the word universe. What the universe brings into your life, because God is the universe. It's just an energy. And that energy is of unconditional love. We wouldn't be able to fathom it. We don't even know. We so try and say that it's a male, it's a girl. No, it's male and female, because it's the consciousness of both. The consciousness of both. There are gifts that come from being male, having male traits, and having female traits. But there's many females that have these male traits, and vice versa. Is again because there really is no gender. There really is no anything, because it's a consciousness. That's what really this unconditional love is, and we all have it inside of us. So again, our shadows take us further away from this source, and that's our supernatural part of ourself. So we really want to heal these wounds. We really want to heal these wounds right now more than ever, because again, when you're not healed, you live in a place of fear and survival, and then over time, you get autoimmune system problems because you're unconsciously conditioning yourself to live in survival mode. And so it's not just because you have problems within relationships and finances too, because if you don't like who you are and you have all these shadows and you're trying to emulate other people, it's just awkward energy. Well, then, your money is not going to do that well either. It's going to look like a roller coaster, like a second chakra imbalance, and that's your individuality, who you perceive you are. And a lot of people perceive that they're their wombs, and so you're not your wombs. You're not your achievements either. You're a consciousness, and a consciousness that is supposed to be a form of expression of love through all the time. And that could be just through being you, again, what you bring to the table, through your personality, your uniqueness, your essence. And then we build on that through what gives us purpose, what fills our soul up, so we can give and receive it. All right. Now, I always like to channel a little bit before jumping into a reading. And the reason why spirit is, again, wants you to understand, it's all about healing. What are we healing? We're healing the effects of psychic trauma. All right. So I always like to pull a card of the day, and the card of the day is going to be the word of the day. So if you want to enter into winning a free psychic soul reading with me, all you gotta do is like the video, subscribe to the channel, and write the word of the day in your description box. Now, if you forget what the word of the day is, hopefully I won't forget to write it in the description box, but usually I remember to put it in the description box. Otherwise, you just have to rewind it back to the beginning. And you'll write the word in your comment bar, and I'll if I write the word winner underneath your comment, that's how you'll know you won. Having a little trouble talking there for a second. So, and we'll just correspond back on YouTube. All right. So then this way there's no confusion. Like, where's the link the day of your reading? You'll be able to find it. It's right there. And also, if you're new to the channel, by the way, anything that you need to know of any importance, again, is in that description box. So again, please check out everything I have to offer. Now, the word of the day is going to be merciless forgiveness. Actually, 2 words today. So it's funny. forgiveness is like the biggest lesson that we have to go through. And it's a very paradox because um really, unless we really truly love something and care about something, do we are we really like, again, we can humble ourselves to like ask for forgiveness. And I'm feeling like, again, merciless forgiveness is forgiveness when you don't really deserve forgiveness. You're depending on somebody else's mercy to give forgiveness. And many times, again, this is where wounds come from. Is that we live our life through a level of perception, and that perception is what we believe that we want. And so we believe that we need to become something. And we're only viewing our life through, again, that perception, which is usually from a place of lack, which is why we only are focused on one thing. So if a person doesn't get enough passion in their life, they don't have enough love in their life, they may give 110% to somebody. And that person that they're giving 110% in isn't really giving them anything back. And, over time, that's when the person that's given 110% realizes that they're not getting back. But we're coming from a place of lack, we tend to do that. So merciless forgiveness would be you're giving 110% to a person and they're purposely not giving you anything back. So it's like when we're conscious of what we do. So a lot of times when we have wounds, we don't care. That a lot of addictive behavior comes from having wounds, which that's when we really need merciless forgiveness, because what we do when we, use outside things. And I'm feeling, Virgo, that you're connected to someone that either drinks too much, does smokes too much, does something outside of themselves to numb themselves too much. And because of this, they're not present in their relationships, they're not present in a lot of other areas of their life. And so I feel like you're connected to someone that wasn't treating you right. So again, merciless forgiveness is going to be the word that you put in the description box. There's also how we are opening up your reading. Because again, I just felt like it. I don't know why. There's never any right or reason. It's whatever spirit wants. Again, that's the intuitive, creative side. The supernatural part aside, that's when they say, Jesus, take the wheel. That is, again, that flow of spirit is working through, directing. And so we never know what it's going to be. It's always going to be different. All right, so let's look and see what you incarnated into this lifetime with. Now, we live many, many lifetimes, because you wouldn't learn that you're not separate from unconditional love, again, which is what the energy of the universe is and the energy of God is. We would never see that unless, again, we learned about pain. And it takes us many, many times to learn a lesson. It's much different than school. School, you actually get the lesson, they teach it to you, and then you take the test. Life, you get the test, then you get the lesson. So you get it backwards. It's like, oh, you learned from that lesson. So let's see what we didn't learn in a past life, or what the energies are, because that's going to dictate to us what the archetype is. Okay, food and hunger. So you came from a place of survival. See, Virgo, it's either you or a person that you're connected to that's influencing you. See, this is why they say you got to be careful with who you let into your life, because you can have very high vibration, but not be getting enough emotional fulfillment. And because you're in balance, you'll pull a person, become a magnet for a person that holds like a low vibration. So because they don't know who they are. And that's what I feel. I feel like you're attached to someone that is like, it has a lot of addictive behavior. And they have a lot of addictive behavior because they live in a place of survival. And that happens, like you said, from when we're living in, from a very low consciousness, and that's through our basic needs. So that's when we're usually living from the ego, and the ego just wants to be emotionally fulfilled. It wants what it wants when it wants it. And so survival, and it will actually identify with survival. Addiction happens because of this. We don't like who we are. Over time, it lowers our energy, and it does because we're holding on to toxic core beliefs that create emotional energy. And they create emotional energy because every time you interact with people and situations, you're going to feel more of that energy. So what happens is that people detach and they isolate. But as spiritual beings having human experiences, we're not down here to isolate. That creates a lot of pain. We're here to give and receive of love. So addiction is created because, again, of self-loathing, of escapism, and the escapism from those shadow aspects of self, and again, coming from a very low consciousness. Again, this doesn't mean that you have this. You can be connected to someone, Virgo, again, because imbalanced energy goes to imbalanced energy. There's only two energies, love and fear. That's so you can say, I don't have any of this, but I attract people like this. And that's really what I'm feeling. Okay. So, and that might be because you too come from a place of survival. Again, soulmates, a lot of times, have the same spiritual wounds created from different things. Again, they met in a past life. So a lot of soulmates learned in a past life, had a lesson that they didn't learn. So they've incarnated in this life to learn the lessons of, again, to bypass this, to bypass just living in survival mode, to again, to live from a more conscious and a creative way, which is when you have purpose, realizing that money doesn't come from, the source of it really comes from how you feel about yourself, how high your energy is vibing. We tend to look at money more from a logical perspective, which is, I got to work really hard. And that's the survival perspective. I got to work really hard and I have to do something that I don't like. And it's like, or I like what I do, but there's always a sacrifice. There's always that. It's never just we're an expression of unconditional love, survival. And our society teaches us that. So understand that's a generational karma. I feel like you both inherited, and that's because the world taught us, again, that money is a man-made thing, and it is a man-made thing, but from a spiritual perspective, it's really just energy, and energy that is just, we're supposed to exchange it the way that you're supposed to exchange your energy. You're not supposed to just take someone's energy. You're supposed to share your energy. People that have addiction, they are really imbalanced in their energy. They tend to not give enough because they're not open enough, because they don't like who they are. So it's again, and so because they don't like who they are, I feel like, again, their energy is mirrored out within their behaviorisms, which were not nice to you. So let's look at your inner child wounds, Virgo, because again, why would you attract a person like this into this lifetime? What were the wounds that you carried in from a past lifetime? Let's see. Please don't lose hope. So there's, again, please don't lose hope. Grief. Grief. Grief is sorrow. Grief is just the loss of faith, of, again, not feeling good. So I'm feeling as if you grew up in an environment where you saw your parents struggle, where, we inherit our wounds a lot of times. We inherit them because, again, it's your environment that creates your reality. When you don't need to actually go through the experience that traumatizes you, you could witness someone that you love go through it and then not be able to help them. And this is really how it affects. And so there's a sense of you watched your parent lose hope. And so when we lose hope, this is where really addiction comes from, because again, there's a sense of, I don't like who I am. I don't see any different. I have actual proof of why that there's something wrong with me, why I don't like who I am. And again, basing your life on your actions and not really on who you are. And we tend to lose hope because we don't have faith. We don't have a faith in something bigger than us. And over time, when you keep looking at your life because you keep manifesting undesirable life experiences and problems within your relationships and problems within your finances and just problems, then you want to escape. Because you feel then you don't like you, and then you view that everyone else doesn't like you also, when that may not even be true. But really, we can see why people then escape when we lose hope. And like I said, I feel as if you grew up with an alcoholic parent, or a parent that did drugs or did other forms of escapism. It could be that they were constantly in relationships and just were never around. They were chasing after that emotional fulfillment, the next high. And that could be anything, but you didn't get your needs met. And that's, again, this person that's coming into your life, this person that you're attached to, this person that is a soulmate. It's a past life soulmate. So again, we got to watch out for past life soulmates, because coming in with a lesson that you have not learned. Let's look at the lesson. Let's look at the samskara. The samskara is a spiritual wound. The spiritual wound is a combination of astral energy, which is mental energy, combined with emotional energies held in the body at stress, is what makes you a magnet for who and what comes into your life. So again, you may say, why did this person come into my life? And I just told you why. From a spiritual perspective and from a emotional level, you could still need to be do healing with a father, with a parent. Maybe you didn't have a father, maybe your mother was your mother and father. But with that energy, you need to heal it. Because again, in the Bible, it says, what we resist persists. And so you're still a magnet. You have a trauma. And so that trauma, again, is the samskara, which again is what determines your energy vibration. And we just explained that if you grew up with an alcoholic parent, or a parent that, again, did things to suppress their emotions and escape, and you still have unconditional love for this parent, all of us pretty much do, even when we say we don't. We'd be like, no, I hate that person. It's like, then if there's an emotional charge to it, you love that person because you wouldn't care. So again, the pain is like no, and pain is an easier emotion to deal with than grief. So understand there's energy there, and that's really what happens when there's addiction. There's a sense of needing to forgive, needing to have the merciless forgiveness, which is don't really deserve to be forgiven. Because in a way we may see that we're still broken. And broken because life isn't working, which is what has happened. And it hasn't worked for both you and the person that you're connected to, not working for you because, again, still coming from survival mode is making you attract that energy. So you're needing to integrate the samskara. And for your person, again, having addictions, escaping, not being able to feel comfortable even in feeling their emotions. That's why, again, people numb themselves. But there's wisdom in the emotions. You know, the addiction allows a person to be detached because of grief. But grief is something that's inherited. You know, and watching a family suffer. Okay, so looking at the samskara, hostility, aggression, violence, hostility. So again, we can see how it's, again, it lowers our vibration. There's a sense of just frustration. And it's frustration, Virgo, if you're dealing with this energy, because you're trying to, whenever you're dealing with a person that has addiction, they're stuck in their own reality. We all, again, our own perception is our reality. Is it truth? No, it's not truth. It's a reality. It's a perception. It's many different realities that play in at one time, depending on the core beliefs. A person that has addiction doesn't like who they are. And so they, again, escape. So it would create a lot of negative emotions with inside you of always trying to put a circle peg into the square hole. You know what I'm saying? Like it's frustrating because it would also trigger you all the time. But it's that this relationship is a past life coming into your life to make you aware of what needs to be healed, what needs to be integrated. Let's pull another. Let's pull what is like your person needs to heal. Loneliness. Again, loneliness. They, again, don't like who they are. So they're lonely, mainly because if you're so busy stuck in your head thinking about your problems, you're not investing in life. And if you go out and you try and invest in life and you're trying to connect to people randomly and you don't like who you are, you're not going to trust because there's wounds there. So you're always going to be looking for what's the problem instead of what's actually happening. Meaning this person always views life through their perception and they don't like who they are. So they assume that everybody else doesn't like who they are. So again, they isolate, which is why, again, they have addiction problems, which is why they're lonely, you know, where really, you know, like a lot of people feel uncomfortable just going out and meeting new people. But the buffer to that is joining something. So again, doing something that you love. We connect to people through what we love. Again, our choice of focus is our greatest tool when we don't like certain things about ourselves. We can't stare at them and obsess about them. People that have addiction, they ruminate on the same problems. They get stuck in the past, or they, again, stick their head in the sand and they isolate and they escape. And so, again, which makes them lonely. So it's like they're comfortable, but yet uncomfortable. And in this, it's making you uncomfortable, Virgo, because first of all, you grew up with a parent that didn't give you the love and the nurturing because they suffered from addiction and avoidance because, again, they had their own wounds. I'm not saying that they didn't love you, but they didn't give you what you needed. So there was that loneliness, and then again attracting a person that again is mirroring the same actions, the same behaviorisms, which is creating that same energy with inside of you, bringing you back, actually time traveling back to that time period in your life, so that you can look at certain things, but we wouldn't know what those things were. So let's look at some triggers, because the trigger is always going to tell us what the inner child wound was. Like again, the inner child wound is because we didn't heal it yet. And it will also, give us another layer of, like, if there's another spiritual block, because a lot of times when you're healing, it's like peeling an onion. You get to one layer and you think you're done, and it's like, oh God, there's more healing. And that's because there's a never ending cycle of just healing. We a lot of times will leave a situation that we think was healed and return to it, and then see a different perception of it, and then wind up needing to do healing again. Well, it all depends on the trauma. So again, we look for clues so that we can go deeper and deeper and deeper into ourselves. That's what shadow healing is all about. So we have to look at the triggers. Okay, trust. So again, trust comes from, so again, first of all, if we grow up in an environment with a parent that didn't trust us, then we're, again, not, as a child, we're not getting what we need, which could be just support. And so children that try and go out and do adult things or try and do things without support usually don't get good. They don't get good results, and it winds up making them not trust themselves, and also not trust the parent that is never showing up and never there. Now, unconsciously, again, you're a magnet of who and what comes into your life. You attract a person that can't show up for you, so now you don't trust them. So we can see what the trigger is. It's like, again, you transcended back to that same experience. We don't like this. Forgotten. Yeah, because the person can't give you what you need, because people that have addictions are very selfish. They only see things from a survival perspective, which is all about them. They could even be narcissistic, where they believe that you are an extension of themselves. And it's not because of any other reason except for they're living in survival mode. And there's a reason why they say stuck and stupid. It's because, again, we're in survival mode. We're not really in a grounded, balanced way. Right? When we're grounded, there is a sense of, yes, emotions, but there's also, you're using logic to balance those emotions. When we're in survival mode, we tend to just be living from our emotional state, which is the ego, which is where your wounds really are held within that subconscious mind. So we can see like how we become an energy magnet, and we're recreating the same experience. Self-sabotage. So again, people that have addictions self-sabotage themselves, and people that try to rescue people that have addictions is self-sabotage. And self-sabotage is when we get in our own way. So people that again don't like who they are and that have addictions, they self-sabotage themselves all the time, because again, they're living more from their addictive emotional state. And that's to try to balance out their energy, because again, when we don't feel good, there's a sense of feeling very lethargic. Negative emotions are heavy. They make us tired. So again, there's a difference between being physically exhausted and spiritually exhausted. A person that has addictive behavior is spiritually exhausted. And they wind up getting in their own way. They sabotage every relationship because they don't believe that they're lovable. And because they don't believe that they're lovable, they, again, have addiction. But if you're going to be right there trying to save them, you're going to self-sabotage yourself. And that's what codependent relationships are all about. So most likely, Virgo, you grew up with codependent parents that really didn't make the marriage work. I mean, they stayed together mainly for money. Maybe there was love, but the love that you saw, it was very controlling, it was toxic, it was, controlling, and it would look like an emotional roller coaster all the time, which is also this addictive energy that tends to come with addictive behavior. It's again, it's a very addictive, toxic energy because it releases those hormones. Again, the adrenaline and the epinephrine that a lot of times happens when we have addictive behavior. There's like a little bit of a rush, a high. Well, again, that's what really creates the self-sabotage. So you may be addicted to someone where you really love and care about them, but is being with them is continuously bringing that emotional roller coaster into your life of I can trust them, I can't trust them, I can trust them, I can't trust them. And over time, you won't trust yourself if you choose to be in this relationship. So let's just look and see what is the message from the universe, because I mean, obviously we can see this would not be a good relationship to pursue because a person needs to heal themselves before they actually are capable of giving love. So I would recommend that both people do the appropriate shadow healing for themselves. But what is the words of wisdom for the universe? We'll pull 2 cards. One step at a time, kind of like that, right? The addiction is kind of like that prayer. That's what it reminds me of, that footprints, right? I see the mountain ahead and dedicate myself to taking one small step at a time. I make progress by staying focused on the present moment, the current task. Thus, I regain my ease of living. So for the person that has addiction, it's all about being in the moment. Being in the moment, that like not coming from their core beliefs of believing that they're not good enough. Those, again, were inner child wounds. So again, one day at a time is what reminds me of one step at a time. When one day at a time is the AA slogan. That's what I meant to say. That's what was triggered in my mind when I saw this card. So really, again, it's about just being in the moment, being in the now. When we suffer from addictions, when we suffer from trauma, and when we don't like who we are, and when we have lost our way, the answer is to take it one day at a time. Invest in you. Understand God will bring you the people, the situations, and the experiences that change your mind and your heart. But you got to be in the present moment. And the only way to really be in the present moment is when you're giving and receiving of love, and you're becoming the highest vibration of love. Then you're looking to see where you're going, what you're doing. You're connecting to like-minded people. And it's a way to live your bliss. When we are living so much from the logical linear mind and from, again, being conditioned from our experiences, we're always in the past or the future and very rarely in the present moment. And so again, that is, again, I love that, because again, the one step at a time, it's like one day at a time, and being true to you. People that have addictions feel like they need to be someone else. They don't like who they are, so they form a persona in hopes that you will connect with them through that, so that you will see them through that perception. But that's not who the true self is. It's a persona. And so whenever we're trying to like emulate somebody, it's awkward. The energy is awkward because it's not real. It's like if we're phony baloney, we're only going to attract phony baloney because you're imaginative of who and what comes into place. If we don't like who we are, but we're trying to pretend to be someone else, the universe still knows, God still knows that we don't like who we are, and we are still going to get that magnet. So again, addiction comes from believing that success and love and emotional fulfillment comes from outside of yourself. And really, it really is an inside job. And only through allowing yourself to unfold through your unique individuality. See, people that have trauma where they don't like who they are, they have a second chakra imbalance. They have a imbalance where they have shadows in their identity. And so where spirit saying is like, well, first and foremost, you got to be true to yourself. Otherwise you won't be happy. And, you'll be living for someone else. And when we live for other people, we never, people then eventually take you for granted because it's just human nature. And it's like if you're always available, always there. But if we don't like who we are, there's a false sense, again, that happiness is going to come from outside. So I feel also it's about finding who you are. And this goes for both parties, because even if you're not the alcoholic, being connected to someone that is an alcoholic that can't give you love, you have the same wound that this person has. And that's believing that you're not lovable. And that is really what this past life connection is about to teach you. It doesn't mean that they don't love you. They love you the best way they know how, but it's not enough. It's not enough considering how much you would give. And in that always coming up empty. And that's really why. So spirit saying, take it one day at a time, be present, because letting go of someone that you care about obviously is not easy to do, but you got to be true to you. You can't be expected to dummy down and never get your emotional needs met. And I'm going to leave that there, Virgo. I got to go, got to run. I know that this probably was too freaking long, but you know what? I like to give a lot of information. All right. I'll talk to you guys all soon. Bye.